Joining us now is Wall Street criminal defense attorney Vinoo Varghese. So, I have so many questions about this, but obviously creating a fictional series about violent crimes is one thing, but when producers are trying to film a show about a true crime, what are the legal boundaries that they actually face? Do they have the right to tell these stories in whatever way they please?
The answer is pretty much yes. I mean, the Dahmer story, there's really no legal liability for Netflix, as the show is one of general interest, general public interest, and is considered in the public domain. So Netflix can use things that's out there and really face no liability or any sort of legal ramifications for producing a show like this. At least not yet. There's been no decision from a higher level court saying that something like this is improper.
Dahmer obviously caused a huge backlash with people questioning the whole nature of what we should actually air when it comes to true crime, to true crime drama specifically. Is there any legal precedent for the families of the victims in of course, Dahmer's murders to sue the makers of Dahmer and Netflix? And what about employees who say that they were traumatized in the making of this series? Because we saw a lot of stories like that as well.
So for crime victims and families of crime victims, the answer to your question, the first part of your question, is no. There's really no recourse for them when it comes to television producers. Now, if Dahmer were still alive and he tried to make money off of his exploits, there is basically something called the Son of Sam law, which is inspired by the famous murder in New York City during the 70s, where he was not allowed to profit off of his killings. But Dahmer was killed, he's not around. So basically the victims have no other recourse.
We even saw it in Dahmer. They spoke about how all of a sudden there were, this kind of glorification of Dahmer as a serial killer. And obviously there are people who somehow view these criminals as heroes of sorts. I don't understand it. But obviously there might be some fear that there could be copycat attacks as a result of seeing something like this. In Dahmer's case in the series, it was very clear how he went about in carrying out these murders. I mean, you saw every single step of the way. So I guess the question would be, is there a legal precedent as well for changing how these stories can be told on film, per se?
If there happens to be a copycat killer of, let's say, Jeffrey Dahmer, and not just to one person, but to a series of people, and then the victims sue Netflix in saying that he was inspired, I still think they would have a because Dahmer was a real person. He was out there, and Netflix can put its disclaimers out saying inspired by true events or fictionalized dramatization. And until a court, or I should say some higher level court, not a low level court, comes out and awards, the families of certain crime victims,
we're not going to see a change.
There's nothing at this. We're not going to see a change. And because the idea is, like, how do you prove that but for the Netflix show, this guy would have done this stuff? I mean,
right, because the story was already out there. The story was already out there in the past.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I guess my final question is, and again, it's another, everything's up in the air here, but streaming platforms like Netflix and Hulu are competing aggressively right now to get as many viewers as it can. It's become more competitive than ever. And of course, we know that there are cases. Well, what I want to know actually is this. Have there been any landmark cases in the past where shows based on true stories have somehow seen backlash or any type of legal repercussion?
Yeah, there have been a couple of cases where individuals have sued. For example, Netflix, there was a Georgian chess player who sued them about their portrayal in one of their series, and it seems Netflix settled out of court for that, because if they've taken things that are patently untrue and they had knowledge that it was patently untrue, then they would face liability for that. There's the case right now of somebody connected to Anna Delvey in the show Inventing Anna has brought a suit, but the question is, where will that go? I'm not sure. And I think at this point, networks like Netflix, Hulu, HBO Max in the United States, they're all competing for dollars. And, you know, the more provocative they're going to become. I mean, look, it lured you, right, to watch the show. So clearly they had whatever they're doing seems to be working.
Yeah, I mean, after watching the show, I almost felt like I had committed some type of crime and being a part of even just, you know, supporting it, I guess, by watching. But I'd like to thank you so much for joining us, Vinoo. Really fascinating. A lot of questions that have yet to be answered, but still good conversation.